Have you ever looked at a Pokemon and thought it was legendary, then been surprised when it wasn't? Or are there any Pokemon you simply think fit the legendary vibe? Today, I'm gonna be showing some love to those Pokemon. I'll be selecting one regular Pokemon from each of the 18 types that I think would best fit as a legendary Pokemon. Let's start off with Bug, which actually has the fewest legendary Pokemon, including mythical Pokemon, which I will do for this entire video. We have Genesect and Arceus Bug. That's it. I think there's two reasons for this. The first is Bug-type Pokemon often being made intentionally early game and weak, and the second being that mythical arthropod-like creatures are just not as common as other kinds of animals. So how do I choose the lucky one that gets to ascend? Well, for this type and all the others, my main criteria is just looking legendary. This doesn't necessarily mean just fearsome. Pinsir looks fearsome, but it also looks like pretty much just a mean bug. The Pokemon needs to look like something you would awaken from 1,000-year slumber, see flitting through the clouds so quick you'd think it was a mirage, or see depicted in ancient cave paintings. Bonus points are given for strength, in-game encounter methods, or if the Pokemon explicitly has legends about it, but these are optional. Additionally, I have some exclusions for the sake of making this a better video. First, I won't be considering any Ultra Beasts or Paradox Pokemon, since while not legendary, they somewhat kinda function like them. I also will not be selecting pseudo-legendary Pokemon, because that'd make it too easy. They're pseudo-legendaries. They're already almost legendaries. So I'd end up picking too many of them, and I think that'd make for a more boring video. So now to focus on the bug type, most are pretty easy to eliminate, since they tend to look mostly like regular bugs. There are some fearsome looking ones like Scolipede, Vikavolt, or Golisopod, but they don't quite reach the level of legendary for me. They just look big and mean. Rabsca, though, is actually a really interesting option to me. I know it's a dung beetle, and it's pre-evolution, looks like that, but hear me out anyways. Scarab beetles were prominent in Egyptian mythology. The Egyptians saw the Egyptian scarab as a symbol of renewal and rebirth. The beetle was associated closely with the sun god because scarabs roll large balls of dung in which to lay their eggs, a behavior that the Egyptians thought resembled the progression of the sun through the sky from east to west. Rabsca is a dung beetle rolling a magical energy sphere that could easily be interpreted as something core to the foundation of our world. Like maybe it's life energy or something. Its wizened face contributes to its ancient aesthetic as well. I think Rabsca is a very solid choice, and I would choose it if not for the extremely perfect Volcarona. Volcarona works so well as a legendary that it's kind of insane. First, it has high stats. Its 550 base stat total matches other legends like Ogerpon and Urshifu, and is just behind the Loyal 3. It's also a static encounter deep in a dungeon, which is obviously true for many legends. But most crucially, its dex entries discuss it as if it's already legendary. When volcanic ash darkened the atmosphere, it is said that Volcarona's fire provided a replacement for the sun. This Pokemon emerges from a cocoon formed of raging flames. Ancient murals depict Volcarona as a deity of fire. According to legends, it was hatched from a flaming cocoon to save people in Pokemon that were suffering from the cold. Volcarona might be as close to legendary as you can get without being an actual legendary or a pseudo-legendary. And I think it should have been at least one of those two. Also, side note, it is of course a fire type, but I will be picking a unique new Pokemon for each type. Next is Dark. Tyranitar and Hydreigon come to mind, but remember, no pseudo-legends. Too easy. To me, there are three strong candidates, but one of them works better for another type later in the video, so let's focus on just two of them. The first is Zoroark. In Black and White, you could only get it if you had legends from a previous generation event, which was crazy. It was in the Unova Pokedex. How the hell were you supposed to get one if you missed the event? But that made it event exclusive, which at least temporarily kinda made it a mythical Pokemon. It was also the focus of an anime movie, one of only two non-legendary Pokemon to do so. Its illusion ability leads to disguising itself, much like Mew transforming, and it has big hair. This is relevant, I promise. Just look at how many legendary Pokemon have big hair. The other candidate is Absol. While it doesn't have the exclusivity and special attention that Zoroark does, I feel its design, inspiration, and story work better. It's designed to be reminiscent of the yin and yang symbol, like Tui and La from Avatar, which would definitely be legendary Pokemon. Additionally, it's a rare creature that appears only to warn people of catastrophes. It has the ability to foretell natural disasters. Its lifespan is over 100 years. Then in its mega form, it looks like an angel, which works great since some legendary Pokemon are considered gods. So Zoroark's a better fit mechanically, but Absol is a better fit narratively. And I think I prefer the latter. My pick is Absol. Dragon is a very common type for legendary Pokemon, but that actually makes it a lot harder to pick. Once we eliminate the legends and the pseudo-legends, the dragons that remain look distinctly less legendary. Seahorses, apple worms, bats, a tree. There is one though, and really just the one, that I think works at least decently well. Drampa. Drampa is based on a Chinese dragon and is designed to look like it's flying through the clouds. And if you didn't know it, it does actually fly. Here is some footage of it doing so in new Pokemon Snap. This makes it feel a lot more legendary to me, gliding gracefully high up in the sky. The way it cares for people but can fly into a berserking rage also helps its legendary status. I mean, just think about it. How many times has the anime made a legendary Pokemon just go nuts? And that's Drampa's whole thing. It burns down houses of children. Oh my God. Next is electric. And I'm gonna be honest, there are no good options. Virtually every non-legendary electric type is a Pikachu clone, cool but not legend-like to me, or just simply too goofy. There is Rotom though. When it was introduced, it was treated just like a legendary. It was only encountered post-game in a unique static encounter, and there was only one in the game, which was odd considering how weak it is. Then by X and Y, you were finding it in trash cans, and today every single person has one in their cell phone, so it's certainly not a legendary anymore. My choice is not ideal because there are no ideal choices for this type, but I am picking Mega Ampharos. Regular Ampharos is simply not legendary enough, but if Mega Ampharos were a standalone Pokemon, I think it could work. It'd be like one of the cute mythicals, but bigger. It's also a dragon type, common for legends, and crucially, big hair. Its tail looks just like what comes out of the Johto beast's backs.
Haha, it is I, Guarantee Boy. Hey man, cool headphones.
Why, thank you. They're the everyday headphones from the sponsor of this video, Raycon. The new model is amazing. 40-hour battery life, comfortable ergonomic design, 2 hours of battery with just 15 minutes of quick charging. They're fantastic for yourself or as a gift for Mother's Day.
I actually have a pair too, and I really love them. Although I'm surprised you picked white like mine. You wear basically exclusively black.
What? These are white?
Yes.
Damn. Didn't know I was colorblind.
That is not how colorblindness works.
The everyday headphones also have hybrid active noise cancellation. I love using mine on flights to cancel out all the airplane noise, and since my mom likes to travel, she'll definitely do the same. High quality noise canceling functionality is really rare on headphones under $100, so these are an amazing deal. Go to buyraycon.com/MandJTV20 to get 20% off site-wide. The link is in the description below.
I need to circle back though. A colorblindness person can tell the difference between black and white.
What? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Colorblind and all. Ta-ta! Fairy is an interesting one. Most fairy legendaries are actually big and powerful looking. Xerneas, Zacian, Tapu Koko, Enamorus, etc. Yet most regular fairy type Pokemon are small and cute. However, I think that can still work for a legend since many are pixie/sprite/fairy-like, even if they're not fairy type. Celebi, Jirachi, and Victini are great examples, and I believe they all would have been fairy type had it existed upon their introduction. Like Celebi is an
What did he say?
Like Celebi is an Like Celebi is actually a fairy. It's got the wings and everything. There's also the Lake Trio and of course, Diancie. an actual fairy type. This leads to our first option, Carbink. Diancie used to be a Carbink, so could its previous version maybe count as legendary? Meh. That's kind of like saying, oh hey, Spider-Man used to be a regular guy, so all regular guys are superheroes, which is definitely not true. Some of them are jerks. Eternal Flower Floette has legendary stats, but I can't really say that Floette could be a legendary. They're not all special like the Immortal one. I believe what I've selected is the best option. And this may be controversial, but I'm standing my ground here. The new fairy type legend should be Togetic, not Togekiss. Just think about it. In an alternate universe, the special mystery egg you receive in Johto turns out to be wholly unique. Technically it already is, but like, extra special. It hatches into a weak, feeble Togepi, but when befriended, instead of evolving into a frankly useless Pokemon, just look at these stats, it evolves into a small but mighty legendary Pokemon. It'd be like Cosmog eventually becoming Solgaleo or Lunala, albeit with a tinier and cuter result. I also think Togetic's look fits in with Pokemon like Celebi or Mesprit, and it would have been so cool for that first egg to mean something. Togekiss would have never come about, which would have been a bummer. I like Togekiss, but it would have never come about because it wouldn't have been necessary. Fighting is next, which has a motley crew of legends. Everything from a shield dog to wushu bears to a roadrunner to an ancient lizard to ungulates that don't even have hands. Therefore, I got a lot of flexibility. Lucario got its own movie, it being the other non-legend to do so alongside Zoroark, but that was mostly because it's popular and they were teasing Gen 4, just like Zoroark's movie was to tease Gen 5. Lucario is also a very commonplace Pokemon, so it doesn't really feel like a creature of myth, even if it is partially inspired by Anubis. And then I'm not really aware of any other options with like legends told about them. And like, I can't think of any like static encounter ones either. So I'm going just based on aesthetics. My pick is Mienshao. That is how you say it, right? I feel like I called it Mienshao for a while and then I learned it's mean. So it's mean, it's angry. Most fighting Pokemon look generally like animals about to punch you, which Mienshao does, yes. But its sassy look and unique paw flap things make it stand out from other fighting types. Plus, and hear me out, it kinda looks like it could be an offshoot of Mewtwo. They're both cat, dog, foxish creatures, and the colors are almost identical. I wrote in the script here, like, make a pun joke about Mienshao and Mewtwo, and there's no good ones. Mewshao? That's boring. Mean 3? No. Shout out to Mewtwo? Okay, that was actually mildly amusing. Fire is next, and surprising no one, the obvious choice is Arcanine. This Pokemon is the inspiration for this video. Its category is the legendary Pokemon. It is described in Chinese legends, and it's even in a carving alongside the legendary birds in the anime. It also has a high base stat total. But actually, no! Arcanine shouldn't be a legendary Pokemon! At least, not this one. Hisuian Arcanine should be. Arcanine is already based on Komainu, mythical lion dog-like creatures from China, but its Hisuian form looks much more like Komainu statues. And also, listen close, big hair! If the Johto beasts were more dog-like than cat-like, Hisuian Arcanine fits right in with them. Hisuian Arcanine is the legendary Pokemon, while Cantonian Arcanine is its regular descendant. Think like Koraidon to Cyclizar. Flying is packed with legendary Pokemon. The birds, the genies, Rayquaza, Yveltal, all powerful and most cool. So let's do a goofy one. I'm picking Sigilif.
What?
The guardians of an ancient city, they use their psychic power to attack enemies that invade their territory. Psychic power allows these Pokemon to fly. Some say they were the guardians of an ancient city. Others say they were the Guardians' emissaries. I think a Pokemon continuing to live long past the death of its civilization while still remaining loyal to it is absolutely some lore worthy of being a legendary Pokemon. Its intricate design works in favor of that as well. Additionally, it's a psychic type, and if we've learned anything from Lugia, if it's a legend, I'd as well toss Psychic in there. Next is Ghost, and to me, there is a clear choice. Sure, Golurk are ancient sentinels like Sigilif, and yes, there's Hisui and Zoroark, which is related to Zoroark, which I considered earlier. You could even consider Golden Go due to how difficult it is to obtain. But none of them are as good as this Pokemon, one that in the past could only be encountered just like a legend, that being Spiritomb. This was the third dark option from earlier that I was saving. Spiritomb has a legend about it, that 108 spirits were bound to the keystone. It's a static encounter in its original appearance, done so by placing the odd keystone in the hallowed tower after talking to 32 people underground. It's weird and tedious, and frankly annoying. But it's kind of like the Reggie quest, do a lot of weird stuff and get rewarded with a legend. It reminds me of the Treasures of Ruin, where a solid object grows a body of energy or inanimate material. Spiritomb is the easy ghost legend choice. Grass is tricky. So many grass types are, put simply, silly little plants, which is great, but if we look at the legendary grass types, that's not what they are. They're pretty much all creatures with some grassy pieces of them, many of which could fit as non-grass types. But much of the animals with plant attributes grass type regular Pokemon don't look legendary. Breloom, Tropius, Sawsbuck, Gogoat, they're great, but not beings of myth. But one Pokemon is definitely a creature of legend, Torterra. It's partially based on a world turtle, a mythological giant turtle that carries the entire world on its back. Avatar and the Legend of Korra feature smaller versions of those, the lion turtles. They carry island-sized land masses on their backs. Torterra clearly has the stuff to be a legendary creature, but Torterra's a starter, which is not explicitly disqualifying, it's just that it feels weird to take something from one major category and move it to another. I would still pick it if there were no better options, but I think there is one. Arboliva. Arboliva is more than just a sentient plant. It's some kind of being that's inhabiting one. It often shapes its arms into an olive wreath, which was the prize for the winner in the ancient Olympics. Additionally, it may be inspired by dryads, which are essentially Greek mythological tree spirits. Because of these associations, Arboliva feels like it could have been a legendary in a region inspired by ancient Greece. And since it doesn't have the starter baggage, I'm naming it the Grass Legend. Next is ground, and there is an extremely clear best choice, Blood Moon Ursaluna. This thing is much like Volcarona, it's basically already legendary. It's an ancient beast with a legend explaining its existence. There is only one you can get. There's a whole quest to find it, culminating in a boss battle. It's strong, having the same base stats as the Loyal 3. It even has a broken ability and signature move, which seem to be requirements for modern legendaries. The only reason Blood Moon Ursaluna is not a legendary Pokemon is because it's another form of a regular Pokemon. But they're not even like connected at all, at least not evolutionarily. You cannot evolve an Ursaring into this Ursaluna or change a regular Ursaluna's form. If Blood Moon Ursaluna was a new species and not a new form, I think it would already be considered legendary. Next is Ice, and the Ice legendary Pokemon have a theme. They are barely alive. You've got Sentient Ice, Sentient Snow, a Husk Leftovers Dragon, a Horse Without a Face, and another guy who's not an Ice type riding the Horse Without a Face. The only one that feels truly alive is Articuno. I think it's best if I stay on theme, so I'm gonna pick another inorganic looking Pokemon. Ice is the least populated type, so there aren't many options, but a solid one is Cryogonal. This Pokemon is basically Regice in a different font. It's sentient ice with circles forming its face. It's just that Regice is an iceberg and Cryogonal is a snowflake. It also vanishes if it gets too warm, which could lead to it gaining myth status. Combine all that with its overall rarity, initially only being found with a 1 to 5% encounter rate just in Twist Mountain, and you have yet another barely alive Ice legendary. Next is normal, and I've actually already ended up choosing 3 other normal types so far. I just felt like they fit better into their other types than here. I wanted something more focused on the normal type here, and I found it. When analyzing the normal type legendaries, I discovered something very significant. The first two normal type legendary Pokemon were Regigigas and Arceus, and they have something distinct in common. They're white, yellow, and black. Therefore, the ideal new normal type legendary will also be white, yellow, and black. I delved deep into the list of normal type Pokemon and discovered just one perfect Pokemon. Squawkabilly! Specifically the yellow one. Huh? No? Why? It's got big hair! Okay, yeah, I was kidding. For real candidates, Snorlax came to mind, since it's a limited quantity static encounter Pokemon, but since it's just right in the middle of the road, there's not really a quest to track it down, which I feel like detracts from it a lot. Weirdeer has the aesthetic, looking like a wise old wizard like Merlin or Gandalf, but that's about it. And then there's just so many normal Pokemon that just look like regular animals. I couldn't find really any others that look like creatures of ancient legend. But then I remembered something. Not all legendary Pokemon are creatures of ancient legend. The most famous legendary Pokemon is a recent artificial creature, Mewtwo. So if Mewtwo can be legendary, why can't we have another experiment gone wrong legend? My pick is Porygon Z. Its programming was modified to enable work in alien dimensions. It did not work as planned. In order to create a more advanced Pokemon, an additional program was installed, but apparently it contained a defect that makes it move oddly. Some say an additional program made this Pokemon evolve, but even academics can't agree on whether Porygon Z is really an evolution. This is basically just like the creation of Mewtwo. They want something more powerful, but they make something unstable. The only difference is that they modified a regular Pokemon, Porygon 2, instead of a mythical one, Mew. So it's not a perfect one-to-one, but it's close enough that I feel comfortable saying the new normal type legend is Porygon Z. Next is Poison, which for many years had no legendary Pokemon outside Arceus Poison. Eternatus was the first, and then the Loyal 3 and Pecharunt ballooned the number dramatically. Therefore, I don't really have much to go on. We've got weird skeleton dragon thing and then 4 Pokemon with the same aesthetic. Plus, poison type Pokemon by nature tend not to seem all that legendary. Almost every one falls into one of the following 3 categories: poisonous plants, venomous animals, or sentient representations of toxins, all of which are pretty everyday things. There are no options that I'm thrilled about, but I think the best fit is Glamora. Because of its flower-like appearance, I think it could work with a story like the Loyal 3, believed to be something good, but actually something bad. Maybe there are legends saying its flower petals can cure any illness, but then you find out they're just crystallized poison energy. It would be a cautionary tale about being careful what you wish for. It has some other things working for it too, though. Its Violet entry says its petals resemble Terra Jewels, and thus make it reminiscent of Terapagos. It's also very rare. In Paldea, wild Glamora are only found deep in Area 0. It's not perfect, but I think it works well enough. Psychic already has way too many legendary Pokemon, from tiny pixies to big mean monsters. So if I'm gonna add another one, I'm gonna change things up a bit. And the choice is actually pretty easy, because it's one I discussed earlier, Rabsca. Volcarona was a better option in Bug, but there aren't any Pokemon I feel work better in Psychic. Okay, maybe there are, but I think it's more fun to choose this weird one. Rock is another type with very few legends. Regirock, Terrakion, Diancie, Ogerpon Cornerstone Mask, and of course, Arceus Rock. If we remove the 2 only sometimes rock types, that's only 3. Although I've actually already chosen 2 new ones in this video, and each of them are quite a lot like an existing rock legend. Hisuian Arcanine is a big beast like Terrakion, and Glamora is a crystalline pretty creature like Diancie. So I might as well pick a Regirock counterpart, a sentient rock with ancient ties. Stonjourner is the best option. It's based on Stonehenge, a mysterious prehistoric monument that aligns towards sunrise on the summer solstice and sunset on the winter solstice. It's a fascinating structure that has spurred many myths, since the culture that built it didn't leave any writing. Therefore, a Pokemon based on a legendary ancient structure definitely works as a legendary. Stonjourner have strange legend-spawning behavior that align with their origin. For example, once a year on a specific date and at a specific time, they gather out of nowhere and form up in a circle. Sure, it's a little silly with a cute, goofy face, but imagine if you got to journey to a Pokemon World equivalent of Stonehenge, and then within the structure is a slumbering Stonjourner that you had to awaken and then have an epic battle with. That would feel just like a legendary quest, even if the Pokemon is cute and a little silly. Steel has a few decent options. Skarmory could be a Steel-type legendary bird. Golden Go, as I mentioned, is so hard to obtain that it almost reaches legend status. But I don't think they're quite mean enough. I know I said that's not necessary, but for Steel specifically, I feel like it is. Yes, there are some Steel legends like Registeel, Jirachi, Magearna, and Meltan that aren't really scary. But most Steel legends are fearsome beasts. Dialga, Heatran, Cobalion, Genesect, Solgaleo, Duskmane, Necrozma, Zacian, and Zamazenta are all big and mean looking. This fits really well with the Pokemon I've been saving for this entry. Mega Steelix. Regular Steelix is cool, but its design isn't quite legendary enough for me. But its Mega form is insane. Crystals bursting from its body like those on Mega Diancie, but less refined. Strange symbols on some segments, like the Tapus or the faces of the Regis. And most notably, a metallic material orbiting its body. Look, I know it's not the only Pokemon with floating parts of it. Probopass's little mini noses separate, for example. But the way they orbit in a circle on Mega Steelix just looks so powerful. It kind of reminds me of Hoopa Unbound's arms. Mega Steelix doesn't have any lore helping its case. I just truly think its design is so cool and so legendary-like that I had to pick it. And now for the final type, water. It's the most populous type, so its legends range from the god of the sea itself to a baby unicorn. I have a lot of flex here. Lapras is one that comes to mind. It's based on a plesiosaur, the inspiration for the legendary Loch Ness Monster, and in the earliest games, it's either gift exclusive or a static encounter. However, I'm not confident it's got the right look, and it's also not so rare anymore. These Pokemon were once near extinction due to poaching. Following protective regulations, there is now an overabundance of them. Great news! But it does hurt the legendary vibe a bit. A lot, actually. I also considered Relicanth. It's deeply ancient, unchanged for millions of years, and incredibly rare. But it is also small. I feel like if you want a deep sea legendary water type, size matters. Which is why I think an excellent candidate is Gyarados. It's based somewhat on sea serpents, somewhat on Chinese dragons. Magikarp's transformation into Gyarados is inspired by a legend about a carp leaping over the Dragon Gate, the top of a waterfall, and becoming a dragon as a reward. Mythology is deeply integrated into Gyarados' design. And yes, Magikarp are everywhere. But imagine if Gyarados was way less accessible. Maybe you take a Magikarp deep into a dungeon and climb a secret waterfall to trigger the evolution. Of course, Gyarados is too widespread today to truly be legendary, but had they gone a different path, aesthetically, it works as one. It even does the Mewtwo thing where its Mega form looks blatantly worse than the original. However, despite all that, I can't pick Gyarados. There is one Pokemon that is a better option. The new water legendary Pokemon is Quaxwell. Say it with me now, big hair. No? Oh, fine, we can go with Gyarados. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's some other regular Pokemon you think deserve legend status. And if you want to check out another one of my recategorizing Pokemon videos, check out my video where I made it so we have a pseudo-legendary Pokemon of every type. Not just dragon and whatever other types the dragons have.